really believe that this panel is one of the most important because we're talking about jazz as a social movement and its values and all the epoche, all the moments it developed through its establishment in the late 19th century to nowadays, and what it left after it. So jazz is a community, jazz is a legacy, and jazz is an instrument of how to say in English? Joker? No, thank you. So polite. Anyway, please welcome Ms. Tanya Ivanova, our moderator from Jazz FM Radio Bulgaria. Patricia Pascal from Tomorrow's Warriors UK. Signora Francesca Cerretani from Italy, from European Jazz Network. And Sorvina, German-based New York City artist, right? Or New York City German artist. Anyway, enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I think my mic is... okay. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And welcome to the next panel. You see the topic, Jazz as a Social Language, from Community Ritual to Global Movement. My name is Tanya Ivanova. I have been a radio host and a music journalist at Jazz FM Radio for nearly 25 years. I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but it's the best job in the world, in my opinion. One of my favorite musicians, the greatest Herbie Hancock, once said that jazz is really about the human experience. I truly believe that, and perhaps that's the reason why I'm here today. In this conversation, we will explore the connections between music, community, festivals, and our shared experience. I'm pleased to welcome our panelists, so let me introduce them. Next to me, Patricia Pascal. She represents Tomorrow's Warriors, an organization widely recognized for supporting young musicians and creating opportunities for the next generation of jazz artists. Francesca Cerretani joins us from Europe Jazz Network, a leading European network connecting festivals, venues, club producers and cultural organizations across the continent. And we are also delighted to welcome Sorvina, whose artistic work offers a personal perspective on music as a space for connection, expression, and community. Sorvina will perform tonight on the main stage at A2 Jazz Festival right before Didi Bridgewater. We'll be there. To begin, I'd like to ask all of you, when we describe jazz as a social language, what does it mean to you personally and professionally?
I think, jazz is a space for people to connect, to share their experiences, to create community, like you were saying, to create a space where they belong. And obviously that creates a social impact. And for me, the main reason why I work with jazz is because of this, yes.
I think the main characteristic of jazz is improvisation. So I personally see jazz as freedom, because when you are free to when you can improvise, you're free to express yourself, and we just saw it with Didi Bridgewater while Paul Pace was presenting, and they changed, and they were able, it was so natural. And this is part of the freedom that jazz improvisation gives people. And so this is my personal opinion, but I can see that also in my job, and I can see that within the Europe Jazz Network and among our members. We have now 210 member organizations all over Europe and beyond, so 38 countries. And this kind of freedom and improvisation is around, and you can see the difference when I'm among our members, among my friends now. I mean, yeah.
Sorvina?
Yeah, I suppose along the lines of freedom, like jazz was a genre very much born from that need to express oneself, to express one situation. And I believe it is through authentic and genuine expression, it is through the listening and the holding space of that expression where true bridging can happen between people who sometimes have nothing in common. And so when I think of jazz as social language, it is truly and sincerely a two-way conversation of understanding someone and perhaps understanding something about your own self in the process as well.
Perfect. So, Patricia, could you tell us more about Tomorrow's Warriors? You're doing a fantastic job, and I'm really very impressed.
Mm-hmm. So Tomorrow's Warriors, it's an organization that has been around in the UK for 35 years. It was created by Janine Irons and Gary Crosby because Gary is a musician, has a black musician. He didn't see a lot of opportunities for black musicians to be in the scene. So there was a clear purpose of this organization, which was to prioritize opening, the gates for more opportunities for musicians coming from global majority. Also having more opportunities for female instrumentalists and musicians who are coming from, low-income backgrounds, because, as someone said before, jazz is still a bit of an elitist type of music, and obviously musicians who don't have come from privilege, they don't have access to education. And so that was the main purpose of why Tomorrow's Warriors was created. And I think after 35 years of work, educational work, because we run a free, I think it's the only free program, jazz program in the UK. So we provide free education for musicians from 11 to 25, alongside of emerging artists program, which is what I do. So I basically book gigs for emerging artists. So they are with us for a very long time. And so I know all the musicians, I know their needs, I know where they are, I know how I can support them along the way. So we create a pathway for them to be supported. So yeah, that's the work of Tomorrow's Warriors. And after 35 years, you really can see the impact in the scene. We now have a very diverse scene in the UK that, I travel a lot, and people always tell me how inspiring they are by the diversity of the UK jazz scene. But this was only possible because there were organizations that for a very long time were working on having more musicians also coming into conservatoires, having more teachers, female teachers, black teachers. So there was a lot of work, different layers of work happening. And I can say that now in the UK jazz scene, probably 90% of the female musicians and the black musicians that you see, they came through Tomorrow's Warriors.
That's really fantastic, as I said, and it's important to say that graduates of Tomorrow's Warriors developing programs are names like Zara McFarlane, Yaz Ahmed,
Ezra Collective.
Ezra Collective, Camilla George, Sultan Stevenson. He was here last year with his trio, fantastic piano player. So many names.
Kokoroko.
Yes.
Tion Cross. Shabaka Huskin.
It's impressive. That's amazing. And Tomorrow's Warriors has helped many young musicians find not only artistic expression and opportunities, but also a sense of belonging. How important is community in the development of a young artist?
I think is essential, really, because we were doing the work, but also the UK jazz scene is very particular in a way that there are a lot of grassroots organizations that believe in youth. And so the scene is also supporting the work because we can be educating musicians, but if they go into the scene and they don't have opportunities, it's hard for them to develop. So, I think a musician should be on stage, and very early we understood that we needed to be also very active in doing collaborations with venues and festivals to really get those spaces where our musicians could, after they are educated, or even during the time they are in conservatoires, for example, they have the opportunities to be performing, because that's where an artist is developing, especially a jazz artist. They need that space to perform. And so we have stages at festivals. We have a stage at Brooklyn Jazz Festival. We have our own tent at We Out Here Festival, which are big festivals. So yeah, it's not just our work, it's also the support for the scene. And obviously this creates community, right? This is a community. There is a community and an ecosystem that supports the musicians, yeah.
I love examples. So could you tell us about one story that particularly moved you?
Well, we could talk about Ezra Collective that Paul also mentioned. So Ezra Collective, it's a band that there's a personal connection because my kids are also warriors. And when my kids were starting with the program, Ezra Collective were developing and were one of the development bands at the time. So they weren't Ezra Collective yet, but they were a band developing because we do have development bands. And I remember when they were like 16, 15 years old, and they were super talented, and they would come every week to the sessions, and then to see their evolution, you know what I mean? Like, and be where they are now. It's so inspiring. And one thing that is very important for Tomorrow's Warriors is not only to teach them the importance of jazz, the history of jazz, why jazz was created, but also give space for them to express who they are. So we are very different from other organizations because, London, I always say that London is like the youth jazz scene of Europe because there's so many young musicians and very different, organizations working pre-conservatoires with young musicians. But Tomorrow's Warriors was always very organic in the way they teach. So we also have our something that we call One Teach One. So our alumni, musicians that came to the program and benefit from the free education, they come back to the program to teach the next generation. So we don't have, our teachers are not the standard teacher that you would find in a music school. So our teachers are warriors that went to the process and they know what worked with them. And so the way they teach is kind of the way they would like someone to teach them. And so that brings a whole other layer to the teaching element. And they are musicians that are performing, right? Because it's very common for you to have teachers, music teachers that aren't necessarily active musicians, right? But all our music leaders are performing artists in their own name. So we have Binka Golding, Zara, like you were telling, Camila George. They always come to Warriors and do sessions with our musicians. So this is really important because they are being inspired, while they're being taught and while they are learning the language, they're also inspired by their examples. Yeah.
Francesca, listening to Patricia, I was wondering how networks like Europe Jazz Network can help create more of these opportunities across Europe.
Yeah, and by the way, Tomorrow's Warriors is also EGN member, like A2 Jazz Festival and like Ronnie Scott's as well. I mean, we have several here. So we work as a network, not directly with artists and musicians. We work with organizers, artistic directors. So we have been working on what we call social inclusion for many years, and this was a topic that we started in probably 2016 or 17, and it was a small topic. We started kind of, let's see, because we are, as EJN, we are based in Pantin, which is in the it's in the suburb of Paris, and it's Balier is actually suburb in French. And so we started this topic also because we saw what was happening there. I mean, this club, this festival is in suburb of Paris, and our member there is a club. They work a lot with communities. They work with kids in school, and they are an excellent example of working with communities. And they are organizing an amazing concert, an amazing festival in an area where some years ago you would be a bit also scared of going out because of the, of the melting pot of people. But sometimes really coming from center of Paris, you go there and you feel like a bit, And doing this social work in this area has been so important. We saw the value, so we said, okay, maybe. And our members were asking us to talk about this. So what we do is working with artistic directors, organizations that work then with musicians, and give them good practices, share, and learn also. We learned a lot as EJN, as staff of EJN. We saw and we discovered so many examples of organizations that worked in this field, and at the same time, thanks to our seminars, we used to organize every year one seminar on social inclusion. Thanks to our seminar, we saw many of our members starting this work with communities because they saw examples. They saw people that were already doing this, and they learned and they wanted to try. And so we now see that this topic has grown a lot. And our members are asking us to be involved in this, and they want to do this. And when we spoke about also communities, we have to understand, this is my experience, communities is a very wide word, because we are members from 38 countries, and for each country, when we speak about community or with not only migrants or refugees, or not only this, because social inclusion is also about working with disabled people, it's working with convicted people, I mean, it's a very large theme. But when we talk about communities, for each country, I can see that communities has a bit different meaning and different origins, if we can say this word. I'm always, so when I speak with UK people, for example, for them, the majority of them, sometimes communities, when we talk about black people, but if I think about myself, coming from Italy, for me, my community is not this. It's people coming mainly from the Balkans side. And at the same time, if you go to the Balkan, the community is another one again. So when you work with such a large range of countries and organizations, you really work you have a full, I don't know how to say that, but you know what I mean. No? It's the wide spectrum is not only focused on only one specific either community, or you want to call it, it's very wide. So every time you discover things, and because you have your own point of view, but the point of views are so wide and different.
That's an interesting point. Thank you. And I'd like to bring in the artist's perspective. Sorvina, you describe yourself as a storyteller. How did you find the power of storytelling, and how do you use storytelling in the music you create?
Yeah, the idea or the notion of being a storyteller is a role that I hold as being very, very sacred, because from my perspective, it comes from this tradition of Black Southern legacy that so much history and so much history and so many lessons that have been passed down along generations of people have happened orally. And it's so beautiful because the act of telling a story can happen in so many ways. And the way that I do it is through the music and through being on stage. And I believe in telling those stories, ones from the past, one from the present, and ones that may become relevant for the future. It is one of the most impactful methods of sincerely getting a message across. So I wouldn't even, I would consider myself a storyteller more than I would consider myself anything else.
I find storytelling incredibly important in my work as well. During the pandemic, I remember reading an interview with the world-famous Turkish writer Elif Shafak, and she said something really beautiful and very important. The art of storytelling is one of our last remaining democratic spaces. Do you think that music can create that same kind of space?
Yeah, it's so, I think one of the most precious things that we have about music, and also when I think about that tradition of storytelling, and the tradition of storytelling is something that belongs to more than just the Black identity. I think every indigenous culture everywhere has that tradition of storytelling, and the inherent truth of what that looks like always means people coming together and listening. And music, I believe, like music without community almost feels meaningless to me. Of course, I can have my introverted moments of just being at home with my notebook and writing a little something, but it is the experiences I have when I'm with my band, or when I'm in a choir, or when I'm at a jazz session, where the true transcendental feeling of music is there, and it's unreal. It feels like me and everyone else in the room is just flying. And that feeling, when it can really touch someone's heart, I believe is one of the most powerful tools that we have. And because of that, I feel the same as you, that I believe I have just one of the best jobs in this whole world, because my role is to facilitate that feeling, to facilitate that experience. And it is so much fun doing it. And it is so amazing that it always happens in the context of meeting people where they are, where I am, and so on.
And what do you want to feel people when they leave one of your concerts?
Oh my gosh, it's very personal to each artist. I think for me, I wish for people to walk away from my set feeling a very pure sense of joy, in the sense that it is also very influenced by hope. I want people to walk away from my music, from that experience, feeling like the promise of a better tomorrow is right there.
Perfect. And
can I just say something
yes,
about
yes.
community? Because what you're saying is really important, because the word is so used nowadays. And there's different types of communities. You can also have a bad community. And I feel like with Tomorrow's Warriors, what we fight so much to have is to have a healthy community, a community like a space where everybody is welcome, where everybody is safe, where everybody can express themselves. And we are very proud that our musicians, they are free to also include their heritage in their music. Ezra Collective, they have, Nigerian roots, so they include that in the music. And what is really interesting, because they're so lively and young, there was this phenomenon in the UK where they started like feeling, people, had this idea, oh, jazz is that, like someone was saying. Because a lot of the people, especially outside London, because I always say London is, one thing is London, another thing is the rest of the UK. But if you step outside London, you would go into the jazz clubs, and it was, the people there were much more mature. You didn't see young people coming into the clubs, outside London specifically, and even in London. And what Ezra did was create a movement where young people, like he was saying, like they didn't know they were coming to hear jazz. They were coming to hear Ezra, and then they're like faced with the jazz sounds. And the thing is, Ezra, they talk about so many important things. They become bigger than the music that they do, because they are the front of a movement, right? And they talk about jazz musicians, and the young people that go to their gigs, they get curious. And then they started like researching. And there's like stats of, since Ezra, there's been like a lot of young people have come into jazz and started listening to jazz, which is really interesting, because jazz sometimes can be a difficult music to listen if you're not a musician, or you're not so knowledgeable, or have been hearing jazz for a very long time, you know what I mean? And so they approached the music in a much more like accessible way. And so that brought the young people, and also inspired a lot of young people to pick up instruments, jazz instruments. And so it was another way, right? And so we now have a scene in the UK that is so vibrant and young. So this is the kind of community that Tomorrow's Warriors thrive to create.
I'd like to share an observation. When I started working in jazz 25 years ago, many people saw jazz as something difficult, something too complicated, too intellectual, and so on and so on. There was some kind of fear around jazz, but I feel things are changing now. How can we continue to break down these stereotypes and prejudice? What do you think?
I think, education is kind of the start, of the whole problem, right? Because the thing is, even when we talk about, the number of female instrumentalists playing jazz, maybe 15 years ago, you didn't have a lot of female instrumentalists in conservatoires, for example, because you also didn't have female teachers or black teachers. There was no representation. And the thing is, there weren't, role models. There was, because these people weren't represented. Like, there weren't a lot of female leaders, you know what I mean? Young girls didn't feel like they were represented, so they wouldn't go there, right? So you need to do that work of developing more female instrumentalists, more musicians from underrepresented backgrounds, not just black musicians. And so we started that work, and now we look at the UK jazz scene, and you see a lot more. So the fabric is a lot more diverse, And the thing is, they're still a minority, right? But because we prioritize them, we were able to, create pathways into the industry, and you have a much more diverse scene. So you need to do that work in the base to see change, I feel.
Yeah, I also think we and you and the organizers shouldn't give up, but insist, because it's true that jazz can be can be a bit difficult, but the more you listen to it, the more you understand how it works. I'm not a musician. So when I started in EJN 13 years ago, 14, I was coming from theater, so completely different. I had been following a bit, but I was not a musician. And I must say that I listen now to concerts with a different mindset and different here as well. I was not educated to this, but then learning and studying a bit and attending so many concerts and listening to my colleagues speaking about it, you learn a lot. So this is what is missing today. This is what I was saying before when we talk about culture today, artistic choices, cultural choices, different from entertainment choices. This is, I mean, today nobody is not nobody, but what I can see, I'm a bit pessimistic because what I see around me is about, I mean, society is very superficial today, so they want easy things, easy stuff, and people don't read, people don't study, So what we have to do, according to me, and organizers, artistic directors, and musicians mostly, don't give up. I mean, we have to, even if at the beginning you have not so much audience, even if at the beginning it can be difficult, but the more you insist, the more people you will have, and also young audiences, they will grow up. I mean, we have among our members some members that are thinking about removing the jazz word from their festival. Not thinking about this. They would like to keep it, but there is a kind of a discussion going on about maybe we should remove the jazz word and leave it like A to Z festival, for example, or just making an example, but could be any festival. But then in the end, this, I mean, you have this characteristic, you are this, so why removing this word? So maybe now today also some successful stories are also about mixing the genre, because again, also among our members we have some members who are more really into the traditional jazz, but the majority also of our members, there are big venues, big festivals, they are open to mixing genre, and this is very helpful to get the audience, because when you go to a festival, you have both the traditional jazz, but since you are there, you will see another mixed genre with electronic, with other, and this makes also today a difference to attract people and to make them start listening to this music.
Yes, that's one way to make jazz more accessible and inclusive. So yes, that's a good point.
I'll
yes,
take a stab at this question as well, because when I think about kind of dismantling the stereotypes about jazz, I feel in some way that the fire might be coming from inside the house, in the sense that, yeah, jazz has become in some way this elitist and exclusive, it has elitist and exclusive associations towards it. And I think the solution to dismantling that, especially from organizers, bookers, promoters, is just book good music that has good intentions. And from there, the people will come running. Because people love good music and they love good intentions. And jazz can so easily become over-intellectualized when that was actually never the point. And my band and I were joking the other day that like it feels like there are actually so many classical musicians cosplaying as jazz musicians, because it's so about the precision and the perfection, when actually it's not about that. And I think jazz can become such an important beacon within the world of music because it is demanding and it is challenging, and especially with like the unfortunate uprising we see of AI music and stuff like jazz right now is maybe one of the only genres that's a little bit safe from that, especially on the live stage. But nonetheless, like it also demands that we as audience, as people, stay open to what is jazz, because it's not reading sheets. It's not. And I believe as long as people continue to center good music, then those stereotypes will just naturally fall away. I performed at an amazing festival in Romania that perhaps we all know, Jazz in the Park. And they posted a clip from my performance, and the organizers and the people there are so, so wonderful. I had comments in the video that was shared as a collaborative post, okay, but is this jazz? Respectfully. And I think in the kind of the modern 2026 age that we're in, I believe that people like Ezra Collective and Kendrick Lamar have done more for jazz than most jazz musicians have in recent, because it's showing the intersectional nature of it and how jazz can have such a strong influence across all different genres. So that being said, me not being a classically trained jazz musician, I'm grateful to be on these stages, and I'm grateful that people see the value in centering jazz that's not so academic and watching it change people. And that, I believe, is how the work should continue.
So you played at Jazz in the Park. Jazz in the Park is also EGN member. No, and they and Alin is doing an amazing job with communities, with the Roman communities, and he has been involved in a European cooperation project with some of our members about kids and communities. So yes, that's just.
But I also think like the good thing with jazz is just it's such a big umbrella. You know, everybody can do whatever they want. If you like traditional music, do traditional music. If you like swing, swing. You know, Ezra Collective, they're all conservatoire. Most of them, they study in conservatoires. So they know how to read music. You know, they're traditional jazz musicians. They just chose to go a different way because that's what they felt it would be more authentic to them. So I feel it's all about authenticity, you know, regardless of how you express yourself. Just do it in an authentic way.
Exactly. Everyone's path can and should be different. It's just never shut the door on anyone that has the intentions to do good music, you know? And it's so disappointing to attend different jazz conferences or jazz stages where it just feels like people are walking around with these really tiny boxes in their head. And that's what I mean when I say that it feels like sometimes the fire comes from inside the house. If we want the stereotypes of jazz to break down, it has to start from us. Because why should the outside have a big and beautiful definition of jazz if we don't even?
I agree, and I'm curious, how do you shape your live performances to create emotional connection with the audience and to communicate messages that matter to you?
Yeah, when we talk about everyone's unique and individual path, mine didn't include formal music education, but I grew up in the Black church, which is a conservatory in and of itself. So my skills and my passions for storytelling, for facilitation, for expressing or conveying a message with conviction, that's something that I started cultivating from the age of 5, when they push you in front of the microphone and say, "Preach!" And it started there, and I'm so grateful that I have found this career where I can continue to develop and strengthen that, and it is so fun. And kind of being the musical director of the ideas that happen on stage, it's just so fun.
I'd like to bring in a personal reflection inspired by Didi Bridgewater. When I started working at Jazz FM, jazz was described as a boys' club. In the end of the 90s, there were musicians called young lions. What about young lionesses? You know what I mean? And but now women are more and more active in jazz. And I was thinking about today this discussion, this panel, and we are here for women speaking about jazz as a social language. And I find this quite powerful and liberating. And I'm so happy. It's a joy and pleasure to be here with you on this stage. What do you think, from your perspective, how do you see the role of women in jazz today? And has the landscape really changed? Didi wasn't so optimistic.
Well, with Tomorrow's Warriors, the female representation was always a goal. And I think with that, we created in our so we have 4 development groups. We have a junior band, we have a youth ensemble, we have Tomorrow's Warriors Frontline, which is an ensemble that is all female instrumentalists, and we have a big band. And what we saw with the female frontline is really interesting because, you know, we sometimes look at jazz bands and they're all made of male musicians, right? And there's a reason for that, because obviously they're all male, they identify with each other, right? So there's power in there. But when you create a female band, there's also a lot of power in there because they also share all the experiences of being a female.
And the energy is different.
It is different.
That from Terry Lynn Carrington.
Yeah, completely. So we started this group a long time ago, and I can tell you that at least 3 of, because the way it works is that musicians come into this group and they stay for 3 years. And then they either dismantle and they go their own way, or they become a band, like Ezra Collective were one of our development bands. And then at some point, they decided they wanted to be Ezra Collective. And that's what we want. We want them to, you know, have such a strong and powerful experience throughout those 3 years that they want to be a band, right? So with the female frontline, that exactly happened. I remember a female frontline where we had Nubaya Garcia, where we had Sheila Maurice Gray, where we had Cassie Kinosh. And we know that these 3 women, they created their own projects. So Sheila is the lead of Kokoroko. Cassie Kinosh, which was also part of Kokoroko at some point, created Seed Ensemble, and she has loads of other projects. Nubaya Garcia has her own project. And other band leaders or musicians in the band, Sarah Tandy, they all created their own projects, but they also were a band. So after they finished the ensemble, they became a band. And then they became themselves and created their own projects, which is beautiful, right? So we had this happen for 3 ensembles. So the last ensemble is now a band called Ankura. And they're all female, and they're amazing young women. And I can tell you that it's really problematic because, you know, I book gigs, and sometimes I customize bands, and I have to choose instrumentalists. And when I do it, I intentionally think, you know, I want to have representation, I want to have diversity. I intentionally think about those things. And this weekend, I have loads of bands playing across two festivals, and Ankura is playing in one of the festivals, which is a problem for me because it meant that like, they were all busy and I had no one to then think of, I need a female instrumentalist. And the thing is, you think, oh, but you're thinking about female before. This you know, the instrumentalists are amazing. So I don't have to talk about quality because that's already there, right? So it's a problem for myself because I've kind of overbooked everybody. But those spaces are so important, and I can see that there is a difference in the number of female instrumentalists in the scene because we created this space where they thrive, because it's a safe space. It's a different experience, very different from being in a male band, because there's other things that females need to worry about, you know, like Didi Bridgewater was saying, like the way you present yourself, you know, even, and also I notice male musicians today, they also have a lot of difficulties like talking to female musicians because they don't want to hurt them, or, you know, amongst themselves, sometimes there's like this toughness, and they are afraid to have the same with female instrumentalists. I had this discussion with one of my musicians who's a band leader, and there's a female pianist, and she wasn't, you know, being very professional, and he was like, oh no, you need to talk to her because I don't know how to talk to her. I don't want to, you know, I don't want to, because he's a very, you know, expressive person, and so he didn't know how to communicate in a way that he felt like she wasn't gonna be kind of like, you know, be offended or something. And this is also a problem, I feel. So yeah, I do feel like it's changing. I see change, in the UK at least.
One thing I just thought about is that music, of course, is a very holistic experience that requires a lot of different people and a lot of moving parts. And as a woman, musician, band leader, front, I would love more than anything to see more women sound engineers, stage hands, and so on and so forth, because I cannot even begin to tell you what I have to deal with when we get to a sound check, a line check, whatever. And I also understand it as just kind of the general motions that you go through when things are really stressful. But when I had my own headlining show in the city I live in, which is Berlin, my whole team was all women. My sound engineer, my light designer, my stage design, and the experience that we had together was so wonderful because it was so communally solution oriented, and we were able to tackle the stressful moments still with that softness and appreciation that perhaps I wouldn't necessarily feel when I am communicating with a cis, straight, white German man. The German men are different, respectfully. I've come to love them as well. But if we can, through education, through development, somehow also show young girls how cool it is to really know how microphones work, and to understand really how wonderful it is to be the manager of a stage, who you get to meet, what you get to do, and then to watch that naturally place more women in those roles would be so incredible. And that's a change that I really hope to see.
It's also a process, isn't it? Yes. It's a process that will take time to everybody to get used to. Like, it's communication, learning how to communicate, I feel. Because it's different being a female and being a male. It's different. So it's gonna take time. One thing that I wanna say, Ezra Collective, they have a foundation that works on getting more representation on the backstage.
Anyway, there is also, people sometimes think that these kind of jobs are also heavy. I mean, there is also sometimes when you speak to someone, being a stage manager or something maybe requires more strength, I don't know, but sometimes there is this idea, so maybe that's why you don't have so many stage managers, but at the same time I see this growing and growing, like it grew for artistic directors. Still, within EJN, we have a good representation. Also in the board of directors, there is majority of female today. But still, when you see artistic directors, still sometimes when we need someone for a panel or something, and you go through the list, and still you see the majority is still artistic directors who are men. But things are changing. We have also been working on this for many years. We, as EJN, we don't go into artistic choices. We don't go into this. Every member organization is free to programming, but still we had a manifesto on that, on gender balance, which was signed up by all the members. So there is this willingness and openness, but still we can see difference between the northern part of Europe and the southern part of Europe. The difference is still quite big. So yeah, again, here we have a word around this, but things are for sure are moving, and it's changing, like it's changing in society. When Didi, she said patriarchy is, yeah, it's music, but I mean, where isn't patriarchy today? I mean, it's still present in almost all sectors. No, I can see this in other sectors, and so yes, but many things have changed and hopefully will change. But still, we live in also a political, we see what's happening in the political situation, so I don't know if I have to be optimistic or pessimistic, but politically speaking, some countries, it's not good. They are not giving good example. Italy first.
What gives you hope about the future of jazz and music communities?
Us. That's true. Because when I'm working and I travel with my colleagues, and then I go back, and the first days I feel a bit, in general, uncomfortable, because you see the difference between being with your peers and whatever the difference is, because we are different from each other, we have different backgrounds, we come from different countries, different habits, but still, differences for us is a value. And we cherish differences, because from differences you can build many things and you learn. But then when you go back and either you listen to the news or to speak with other people who are not in the cultural sector, and then you feel that probably today more than ever, these two worlds are a bit far away from each other. I don't know how to say it. I experience this sometimes.
I think, yes, definitely having people that are committed to change things. And yeah, sometimes I go on Sundays to the South Bank where we have our learning department, and I go and watch all the bands like rehearsing, and the amount of female musicians and diversity, and gives me hope. Yes.
Sorvina, what about you?
Before coming here, I was at my sound check, and we sound checked right after Didi Bridgewater and her band. And from the sound check alone, and I'm so grateful I was standing towards the side where she couldn't really see me, there were tears falling from my eyes. I think by far the most hopeful, or the greatest hope I can hold on to, is that no matter what's going on, there is always a concert I can go to and get full body chills and realize and remember that music is actually so much bigger than myself, than all of us. It is truly in service of something that can heal what we are facing and what we are going through. And that gives me so hope, is that the music goes on, and the music goes on in such a good and beautiful way.
Okay, and I'd like to ask each of you for one final thought.
come to my concert at 8.
We will, for sure.
I think you'll like it.
To be honest, I'm really glad that I'm here for the first time in Bulgaria, and I have to thank Peter and the festival. You know, it's an amazing space. And also we didn't talk about world music, and I was just like in the first day that I came, you know, there were a lot of world music bands playing, and I was just like, this is amazing because you know we are in Bulgaria, listening to sounds from Italy and being transported into Italy and into India and all the countries that were represented. And I feel like that's the power of music, isn't it? Like, it's really a cultural exchange. And that happens in jazz too, because jazz is about personal experience. It's about expressing who you are. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And that's another hopeful thing, you know, to see a big festival like this one, giving space for that.
Yeah, the same. Maybe I would say something also about Peter and festival, because it's not the first time I'm here. As EGN, we organized also the European Jazz Conference in 2022 here. It was supposed to be in 2020. Then there was COVID, and then we came back, and Peter was very good at raising funds again to do it in 2022. And it gives me hope when I see what he has been doing, either with the festival, but not only with the festival, with making Bulgaria and Bulgarian music and Bulgarian presence itself known abroad. As I said yesterday when we were on stage, it's 10 years that A2 Jazz is EGN member. When Peter arrived, we didn't know Bulgaria. I mean, I had been in Varna for a theater festival, but apart from that, to be honest, I mean, nobody also among our members knew so much about Bulgaria. And now Peter is well known, and we have been, I mean, also other members have been here, and I think we saw the growth, no? Also, I was at the festival in 2018, and also seeing from 2018 and now, I still can see it's been growing, it's more structured. Yes, you have this venue that was not there in 2018, and so this gives us hope. Seeing families and communities, most of them probably they are not used to listen to jazz, but they are there. They are still there, and maybe this year they just listen a bit, next year more, and in 2 years even more. This is why I say that we don't have to give up, even if it's difficult sometimes, but yeah.
Thank you very much. So let's open the floor to questions from the audience. Do we have any questions?
Yes, where we can have lunch. I'm kidding.
Maybe right now. I'm starving.
Yeah.
I'm already starving.
It's time.
Anybody?
I just want to say there has been great progression in gender equality. Certainly where I work, I've been there 17 years, I've noticed such a marked increase. But there used to be our technical manager, we still have the same technical manager who's a man. But it used to be dear chaps. Chaps is for a male term in the UK. And now we have about five or six female or women engineers who they're all on a rota, but no, it's very refreshing. And it's quietened down the machismo within the black t-shirt brigade. They don't wear black t-shirts. No, it's and also going back to musicians, again, progress in the last 10 or so years when women were only referred to as singers. So
Yes.
it must be a singer. You know, I've heard male musicians say that, and it makes me cringe. And in my career as a promoter, I've always, as I said, spoke about it earlier, it's about their quality as musicians, but also you present role models, as you've done, as Didi has done throughout her life. But women instrumentalists, this has been difficult. It's very good to see. I mean, through Tomorrow's Warriors, Patricia just mentioned, Gary and Janine have done a fantastic job there. So I just wanted to say that there's progress. I think it's organic. I think you can't push these things you can push them too hard sometimes. And I think it's good not to alienate people. There are men as well who feel the same way. You know, the women who obviously feel very strongly about it, but also the men who understand that we're all the same. We're not better than anybody else, you know?
Yeah, what I would like to say to that or add to that is, of the men, I can promise that the nice ones will survive. You know what I mean? The nice ones will survive. So as long as you're nice, I don't think you have a single thing to worry about.
One more question, please. Feel free to raise your hand. We can't see you, but we can hear you. Okay, that's all.
Thank you
It's
so
time for
much.
lunch.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day and enjoy A2 Jazz Festival.